Azalea, put the book away. The books are balanced. There's no more red in the ledger. Fresh and buds now.
Fresh and
All right, folks, welcome back to yet another episode of Fresh and Buds. I'm your host, Tommy Fresh, and you are all my buds. And today we have a very special episode of me talking about my Pro Tour predictions, which, listen, it's going to be a very fun weekend this weekend. Singapore, excited to watch the streams and see how a lot of my good buds that are playing will shape up to kind of just take down that tournament. It's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait. We're going to be talking about that. And then we're doing a little bit of a mailbag. It was a busy week for me, so I like to do these mailbags, and I hope you all like them too. And if you want to submit questions or comments for these kinds of episodes, I let everybody know in the Buds Discord, and it is a good time. So we will get to that. I will be shouting out some people, and we are going to have a great episode, so strap in. You know how it goes when it's just me. Things get a little wacky, get a little weird, but that's okay. That's how I like it, and I hope you all do as well. Now, first, we have some kind of upkeep to do before we get to the Pro Tour. This is some big Fresh and Buds lore news. So, episode 73. Now, this is episode 205, I think. This is episode 205. Episode 73. I did an episode about getting players to, like, new players to want to play Flesh and Blood. And the way I did that was I brought on my oldest friend, my cousin, aka Danny Squeeze. That's a new name for him. I don't know. He might like it. If he's listening, Danny, let us know. Do you like that name? But we had cousin Dan on the podcast, who I played Magic the Gathering with for, 15 years. And he also got into the One Piece trading card game. So I was like, hey, Dan, do you want to come on? We're going to pitch the game to you, see if you're interested. Now, episode 73 was a while ago. There's no doubt about that. But Dan expressed interest, but did not take the leap. Now, a few key things happened in order to get to what happened this week. First, the Armory decks came out. That was huge. That was so huge. And I just kind of like buy them when they come out because I like to have them just in case things like this happen and I can give someone a deck. So I taught Dan how to play. And I was like, okay, now you know how to play. We need to get you a deck. I have this KO deck. At the time, I was a little worried that maybe KO was going to a living legend. That ended up not being a huge concern for those who have been paying attention. So, gave him this KO deck, and he's like, okay, yeah, I'll mess around with it, and not a lot happened. He kept playing One Piece. He had a job to do and all that, so he was pretty busy. Now, flash forward to a month ago. Dan texts me. He says, hey, so that KO deck you gave me, is this, like, competitive? Like, yeah, it's pretty good. It could use probably some upgrades. He's like, oh, what would you do? I'm like, well, why are you asking? Dan says, a buddy of mine from One Piece plays Flesh and Blood, and I want to be able to play with him. I'm like, okay, here we go. Hook, line, and sinker. Not the cards from High Seas, but, in this this situation. So I said, no worries. I'm going to upgrade this deck a little bit. Not totally. We'll see how you do with some minor upgrades, through some good brute cards in there, the Blood Rush Bellows that were not in the Armory deck. And, got them off to a hot start. Flash forward to last week, this cousin of mine, Dan, texted me. He's like, "Hey, this place, Greg's Games in Hamilton, New Jersey. I might go play the Armory on the Tuesday." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah. I've been kind of like messing around with the deck a little bit. I want to see what an Armory's like." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? I'll be there." I meet my cousin Dan there. He plays his Armory. He gets his first win with a reckless swing. Gotta love that. I mean, that's, if there's any indication that he is related to me, is that he got a win with a reckless swing. I'm pretty sure that's how I got my first win as well, way back when I first started playing. So really awesome. Wanted to give an update. Sometimes you got to play the long game, getting some, people that you love into the game. And listen, 73, I could do the math, I think. 132 episodes later, we got Dan to play the game. So yeah, listen, folks, you can get your friends to play. I promise. Now, let's get to the Pro Tour. Pro Tour Singapore is coming this weekend, and if you already are watching this a little bit later or listening to this a little bit later, it already happened. And wow, was that crazy. And you're about to find out if my predictions for the Pro Tour are correct. First, let's talk about what the metagame is looking like. Azalea just left. Kind of opens up some things for some other decks for sure, but truly the top of the meta is looking like Gravy Bones and what decks beat Gravy Bones. Now, I would say please go check out the dev talk that the main Flesh and Blood account just put out this past week. Kieran, Jason, and Carol all talked about it, and they really had some great insight. Better probably than mine, but listen, I bring a certain je ne sais quoi to this, because I'm going to mention some heroes that were not mentioned in that talk. Now, top of the meta, Gravy Bones and decks that can beat Gravy Bones. Syndra is kind of emerging as one of these great aggro decks that can just clear these allies and just be super easy to pilot, and just kind of like our old classic Fi meta, like just be able to just go super fast and be hard to deal with. Now, Slippy is also being a major player here, and arguably maybe the best player, because Slippy can beat Gravy Bones, but also deal with some of the other matchups out there that could be problematic for, like a Syndra or a Fang, for example. But with things like Azalea leaving, I think that kind of opens up some stuff for decks like Fang and some other kind of streamlined aggro decks. But Slippy kind of existing and being able to beat those does cause some issues. So I would be shocked if Slippy is not one of the best or highest represented decks. I don't know if it will perform the best, but it might be the highest. Now, there's a couple things that are going on here as I'm talking about this top tier meta. I mean, Prism's in there as well. And so there's a lot of thoughts about what other heroes can make a big play. We've seen some Dorinthias do well in Nationals. We've seen a couple, like actually every single class won in Nationals, which is pretty incredible. But Dash.io is still really good. And we're seeing Victors and maybe some Jarls kind of getting into the mix. Now, I think you all know where I'm going to get at. I really, really like Riptide in this meta, especially Control Riptide, because guess what? I think it's so easy. I mean, personally, my experience so far, to fatigue these gravies with like a Control Riptide. It's not an exciting thing to be doing, but it's something that you can do. And then if they try to get aggressive with non-ally attacks, your deck with all these traps are going to kind of eat them alive anyway. And then on the flip side of that, good into Assassin, like Slippy especially, and good into Syndra. and the other aggro decks. So now the only issue with the Riptide pick here is the existence of 3 decks that I do think will be there in some capacity. Verdants, I think you're just guaranteed to see some Verdants. And Verdants is very tough for that kind of control Riptide. I think if aggro Riptide can handle her, but control Riptide not going to really do enough to really do anything. After that, you have Kano, and yes, the other wizard, Acilio. These are all pretty difficult for that matchup. Acilio less so, and Acilio might be really well positioned in this meta. Now, this will be coming out on Thursday U.S. time, so I don't think I'm going to be influencing anybody's picks here that is playing in the Pro Tour. But listen, if it's like the last minute and you want, like, just DM me, I'll send you a list, and you can just shout me out when you win. Just do well in the drafts, of course. You got to do that too. But so I like Riptide in this meta, except for the wizards that are running around, because wizards is always kind of an issue there, but that's all right. I don't think that they are going to be as prevalent as they've been in previous metas. Now, all this being said, this is a great meta. I think that this is so diverse, and you can really be a specialist in this meta, which is the best. That is the best kind of meta to be going into a Pro Tour with, right? We're going to see the best Rhinar play. We're going to see a great Levia play. We're going to see the best Ninja player. We just got the new Ira deck too, so we can see some spice in the Ninja class. So we're going to just see some really, really cool stuff. And, because of that, I do think that we might end up seeing like 8 different heroes. And I'll tell you what, 8 different heroes in the top 8. And I guess what? I'll guarantee this next point, we're going to have 8 different players in the top 8, if you can believe that. Now, I'm going to predict players and then heroes. I guess I'll do them like side by side. All right. I'm not going to predict who wins. I'm just going to predict the top 8. A Pro Tour top 8 is an insane accolade. It's a great little, resume builder in this card game. And I think we're going to see some really, really cool stuff. First, we are going to see Dorinthia. Who's going to be piloting Dorinthia? Josh Lau. Of course. Another top 8 in under Josh's belt. I think that would be pretty cool to see. Boom. 1. You got to say it. Mo Bogsley, a.k.a. Mark Johnson, is going to top 8 with probably Slippy, if I had to guess. I haven't talked to Mo Bogsley about what he's playing, but if I had to guess, I would say it's Slippy because I've hung out with Mo Bogsley. He's a Slippy kind of guy. That's just how he is. And I think that he knows the deck pretty well and will, I think that's how he qualified for Pro Tour this past season. He was kind of on a break from, if we look back a couple episodes when he was last on, he was on a break from Fab for a bit, kind of resting on his laurels a little bit, and then was like, all right, let me go just win a Pro Quest with Slippy. So I think that's kind of the story there. So I'd like to see that happen. So boom, boom. Verdants. Majin Bay, right? Listen, coming off a Nationals win, I would be shocked if we don't see some more Majin Bay action. Now, it could just not be the meta call to be playing Verdants right now. So we could see maybe Majin Bay return to some Kano roots. That would be kind of fun. That would be very cool to see. So boom, Majin Bay, Mo Bogsley, Josh Lowe. Who's after that? Number 4. I didn't even write any of this down. This is all coming. This is like a premonition. Number 4 is not 4th, but the 4th of the 8 that we're going to be talking about. Number 4 is going to be putting Tam on Ira, I think. If I had to guess, I think that could be a huge moment for the ninja class and a resurgence of the ninja class. It'd be cool to see some Katsu action, though. But I'm going to say Ira. I think Ira is just a insanely versatile hero right now and can really go the distance against a lot of different decks. So, going to say Ira. After that, who do we have? Dagon White on Jarl. No, actually, no, Dagon doesn't like Jarl. I don't even know if Dagon's playing. But if Dagon White is playing, Dagon's going to do it on Victor Goldmane. You heard it here first, folks. Victor Goldmane. I hope you're all writing this down so that we can check my work. And yeah, that would be pretty neat. After that, 6. I did 5. This is the 6th. Who else but the GOAT, Pablo Pintor, on, you heard it here first, Riptide. Boom. Pablo played Riptide at Amsterdam, the control Riptide that I basically still play. That deck was so cool. If I know Pablo, and I've talked to Pablo, I wouldn't say we chat all the time, but maybe he's feeling, a good return to his not his roots. It's not his roots. Back to Riptide. To my roots. Not even my roots. I was a Levi player. Anyway, that's 6, 7. Mara Ferris on Fang. I know Mara, I might even play Dash.io, but you know what? I want to see the Draconic thing happen with, some with Mara. And I think that she can definitely pilot Fang to a top 8, force to be reckoned with. And it's going to be pretty cool to see. Love Fang as a hero. Love playing Fang. Would love to see some Fang action in the top 8. That would be really, really neat. And then 8th, we have to have a Gravy Bones. Now, who's going to be playing Gravy Bones? It's a good question. I think for the story of it all, to have Michael Hamilton on Gravy Bones in the top 8, maybe we get the bracket in a way that Pablo and Michael meet in the finals. And golly, that would be some good gravy right there. That would be very fun. Now, I'm not going to say who's going to win, but any of those 8 players could take it. Pretty diverse if you ask me. I think it's going to be, one heck of a top 8. And I can't wait to be right, folks. Comment below how right I was and how wrong I was, because, obviously it's impossible to predict exactly who is going to top 8 with what hero. But listen, that's what we're going to do anyway. But either way, it's going to be a really cool weekend. We also have the keynote happening probably around the time this podcast comes out. So finish this podcast, go watch the keynote. But we're going to probably see some more Super Slam stuff. I can't really predict what we're going to see. I know that Carol in the the dev talk kind of accidentally spoiled something they had to bleep out. So I'm interested to hear what that ended up being. That's going to be pretty fun. Super Slam's looking like a really cool set. Speaking of, I'll be at the World Premiere Montreal. If anybody is going to be there, please come by and say hi. But hey, Pro Tour weekend, very cool. Those are my predictions. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see how it shapes up, because it's really going to really shape the rest of the summer until Guardian Mastery Pack comes out, and could change up things, but maybe not totally until we see the release of Super Slam. So in the meantime, enjoy the Pro Tour. It's time to dig into some mail. But first, I got to give my high C's fresh faves. Now, I gotta give a shout out to a Discord user by the name of Sal the Gamer Pal. Sal the Gamer Pal reached out to me after last week's episode and graciously said, "Love the ep with Sam. Was wondering what your fresh faves were." And I, let Sal know, but I figured I'll answer it now too for the general public, for the buds. But really appreciated, the kind words there. And I gotta say, my favorite hero from High Seas, Gravy in Limited, for sure. But for Constructed, I think Marlon is definitely calling to me because I like the style of Flesh and Blood that she plays. She plays kind of she's playing right now until we get like a new cannon or some more support, and especially now that Death Dealer's out, she plays Flesh and Blood the hard way, which, if anybody knows this podcast, I'm a huge fan of playing Flesh and Blood the hard way, which I think it's just anytime I play the game ever, because let's be honest, folks, I'm just okay at the game. But yeah, Marlon plays the game the hard way. I love thematically, just hunting things with these harpoons and being able to pull things from your opponent's hands. It just is such a huge win flavor-wise for me too. And just any reason to play a ranger with a ton of blues is just like so exciting to me. So that's my answer for hero. My favorite weapon, I'm going to have to count Sticky Fingers for this one because I love cephalopods. We got a octopus ally that's so cool. And just like Scurv was such a huge win too in my book. So seeing Sticky Fingers be like this really thematic, like steal some gold and just kind of be this pseudo weapon / equipment was really cool to see. And yeah, I just saw an octopus. I was like, I'm in, I'm sold. So huge fan of Sticky Fingers. Equipment, this one's pretty easy. It's got to be Sealay Sarong because I play Riptide and I love Intoxicating Shot. So I know there's Intoxicating Shot haters out there, but when it has Go Again, I love it so much. So, it helps you go wide. It's helping deal with these gravy decks out there. It's just nice. And it kind of opens up other blue arrows. You're just like, well, why not throw the blue drill shot in there? Or why not throw the blue searing shot and stuff like that? Just like, not like, maybe you would never play them on their own, but when it has Go Again, all of a sudden, like the being a little bit too low of rate starts to feel pretty good. So huge fan of Sealay Sarong. And then for card I throw in the deck, yes, I got another Ranger card. It's got to be, it's going to be hard, but I would say Return Fire, but it has been better in theory than in practice. I still think there's hope for that card. It's very cool. Block cards I'm a fan of, so I want to see like these block cards kind of like win. I think there will be a time when Return Fire is very good though, because like just in theory it's just so good, right? You're blocking 4 and then getting a free load with +3, and you're just like, hey, how you doing? I'm sending a bunch of damage, and I also blocked a lot last turn. Really cool. But I'm gonna have to go with King Shark Harpoon because that art is insane. That art is so good, and then it's just a great effect as well. Obviously, as all the harpoons are, like especially when you activated a cannon, they're all gonna be pretty sick. But King Shark Harpoon, God man, it's just it makes you want to play the cannons, right? And that's why it makes you want a new cannon possibly. Although, Hammerhead is good and it makes sense for what the deck's trying to do. But another cannon would be nice to have options. That's all I'm saying for the cannons. And then for like pirate like subclass with like a class I'd want to be. I'm sticking with it. Listen, Brian Gottlieb, when he came on, I asked about why no brute pirate. Brian said, I can't even think of a good example of a brute pirate in pirate lore. And then I forget who said it in the Buzz Discord, but somebody was quick to say Andre the Giant's character in Princess Bride is essentially a brute pirate, part of the brute squad. I mean, I wish I had that one queued up for Brian, but listen, I didn't. So I'm going to have to go with brute pirate, Andre the Giant style, and anybody want a peanut. So that is easy. And then the GOAT set, limited, right now has got to be High Seas. Constructed is still heavy hitters, I think, for me. And then for the, what would you say, or what would you call it, the vibe and aesthetic, I think it is going to be Outsiders still. Obviously, with Riptide, I do like that kind of like grungy, back alley stuff. It's cool to me. I like the dregs of society sometimes. It's very fun. So thanks, Sal, the Gamer Pal. Really appreciate that. We're going to do an updated fresh faves from a question coming up as well for regular, just straight up fresh faves. But let's get to the mail right now. Mail's coming in. We got it. And the first piece of mail for the mailbag is from Boosting Spendog, former guest of the show and just overall cool dude. Love Boosting Spendog. Tommy, who is that adorable fluffy fella in the photo. Now, in the Buzz Discord, when I posted that I would be doing this, I posted a photo of myself with my sister's dog, Joni, who is not a little fella, a little girl. Cute little furball, kind of a little feisty, but, you know, loves to mess around me. I love to, you know, mess around with her and get a little rough. You know, I like messing around with dogs. They're fun. So that is Joni. Very cute. My niece, as I guess I would say. But Spendog also asked, what would you play for Pro Tour? I would say Riptide, no doubt. No doubt. It's Riptide's time, folks. It really is. I'm huffing the copium, but that's all right. And I have an Irish wristwatch. Now, I was wearing a wristwatch in that photo. I don't know if that's what Boosting Spendog was kind of saying here, but I don't have an Irish wristwatch. The one that I was wearing in the photo was German by a brand called Sternglass. So thanks for writing in, Boosting Spendog. Appreciate you. Smithel, aka Smithel Gaming, from the O3 Dropcast. Tommy, I bought my 6-year-old son a sword from a flea market in Myrtle Beach this year on vacation. As the chair of all things tomfoolery, how big of a mistake did I make? Yeah, I would say it was a mistake to go to Myrtle Beach, but I think the sword's pretty cool. But listen, I am all for a 6-year-old with a sword. Very, very cool. As long as they're safe with it. I don't know the degree of sharpness this sword has, what kind of material it's made of, but if it's one of the Nerf swords that they started making like maybe 10 years ago, those are really cool. I have one of those in my garage, and every once in a while, you know, get that puppy out and just get ready to swing. But I would say stay away from Myrtle Beach, and you are A-okay on the sword for the sun. Very, very cool. And then Smithel also asks, what bow should I play as Riptide with Azalea gone, bringing Death Dealer with her? Now listen, Smithel, you would have not caught me dead playing Death Dealer Riptide ever. I have played Riptide with 3 different bows, and not one of them has been a Death Dealer. I think even Yeah, maybe I put it in a sideboard once and then never used it. So I'm Dreadbore all the way. I really still try to make Barb Castaway work, and then I also did Sand Scour stuff, which it just ended up not being super great either. But Dreadbore's the truth. I swear to God, that card's just so good. If people are playing D-Reacts to the meta, and they gotta be, right? Like, it's just that good, and it gives the +1, so like you can get a break point on your 6 arrow attacks like Murky Water or Battering Bolt. It is pretty dope. So stick with the Dreadbore. Mara Ferris, who's going to be in the top 8 of the Pro Tour apparently. I think this is a question long overdue. Tommy, give us your fresh fave. So this one's pretty easy. My overall fresh fave hero is Riptide. Levia's, right there, but just Riptide just keeps getting cooler and cooler to me, where Levia, got like good. I was like, well, I don't want to play a good deck. But after that, weapon is still Hexagore. Gotta be. Just so cool. Raiden's like a close second, but like Hexagore, like I want to play a 2-for-6 weapon that's going to deal damage to me and going to be really hard to make work. So I love Hexagore. So that is my favorite weapon. My favorite equipment. Oh, this one's really tough. This one is really tough. This one changes a lot, I think. But I would say the Long Draw Half Glove is just one that I'm really enjoying. I know, like, a lot of people in like the grindier versions of Riptide were playing, like, kind of moved off the long draw Half Glove and onto the one from the Azalea Armory deck that loads an arrow and has Battle Worn, loads an arrow and gives it an aim counter, which is good. It's no doubt really good, but I think that with the prevalence of like Gravy Bones and just like there's going to be these odd Humperdinks kind of running around with like this 7 like health ally that's going to bash you for 11 every turn. And like maybe you kind of got on the Endless Arrow train. You're like, oh no, this is not going to be able to kill the Humperdink. But hey, I got this Long Draw Half Glove. Let me pop it, get rid of 2 cards from my hand, send the Endless Arrow for 8, and pops back to your hand, and you're cooking. So Long Draw Half Glove is just like kind of near and dear to my heart right now anyway. And then favorite card to throw in my deck, it's got to be Enlightened Strike. I know there's Enlightened Strike haters out there, but I do think it just does everything, right? I just like that, and there's some decks that you should not play Enlightened Strike. This is not CNC where you can kind of jam it into anything. There are decks that when it's good in the deck, it is really good. And I think that E-Strike is really cool that way because it can be a trap because it's a generic, right? It can be a trap to just want to put into anything, but it has to make sense, right? It has to make sense for what you're doing. But, also, Mara asks, favorite food I've eaten recently? So I'm kind of on like a hot dog journey right now. It's like I live in New Jersey. I'm back on the road for work. So and there's a lot of like hot dog stands in New Jersey. So like I'm just going to a bunch of hot dog places, kind of like rating them and ranking them in my little notes app on my phone. It's like a nice little special interest. Maybe I'll write like a Hitchhiker's Guide to Hot Dogs or something like that one day. This is all kind of illusions of grandeur, that's for sure. But there is a place I went to in Fort Lee, New Jersey called Hiram's Road Stand. They do a Ripper style hot dog. If you don't know what that is, it's like a hot dog that you deep fry and then the casing gets all rippy and crunchy a little bit. It doesn't sound that good. Like in theory, you'd be like, what are you talking about? But you get one of these hot dogs, you're like, holy smokes, these are so good. So currently, Hiram's Road Stand, some Rippers from there is kind of a favorite food I've been eating recently. So Thank you, Mara, for writing in. Josh L., who's a fab level 1 judge. Tommy, when are you coming back to Columbus? And when will you help me craft a Marlin deck that leverages New Horizon? Oh, well, you know what's funny? I don't know when I'm coming back to Columbus. I'd like to soon. I would like to soon. But the stars got to align. Traveling a little bit. Going to Montreal, that might throw a wrench in things with my PTO. We'll see. Love to get back to Columbus. I love all the buds out there. Marlin seems like the deck that wants to use New Horizons, right? You know, you have this draw load. It's pretty easy to just get the second arsenal slot cooking. And, you know, the deck also wants to play 3 of a kind. So it's kind of doing everything that New Horizons wants to do. So I can't imagine that the deck isn't there. The tough thing is, I don't know if you really want to be doing the hammerhead thing with it, right? I guess you could, but like, I think you want to kind of go like red line, right? Just like really, really fast. But I could be wrong there. But I'll help you. It won't be good. I can tell you. I've built a couple Marlin decks, and you know, I got to get out of the Riptide mindset when I'm building her. I think that's really it. But thanks for writing in, Josh. Darth Prentice, aka Greg, writes in, you are no longer allowed to live in New Jersey. Obviously, we won't get into the legal reasons on the podcast, but where will you be moving to and why? This is pretty easy. If I was going to stay in the States, it'd be Maine for sure. I love that state. I love the wilderness. I love the food there. I love, you know, the beer there. It's all really, really good. Love Maine. That would be easy. But if I had to go outside, I mean, if I'm assuming I'm in trouble in New Jersey, I might be in trouble in the whole United States. So outside of the country, geez. Well, I loved going to Scotland earlier this year. I could see myself living there. So here's a wild thing. I've answered this, I think, on Fresh Juice before, but I want to go to Antarctica. This sounds crazy. I want to live on like a scientific base or whatever in Antarctica, just to see if I could do it, see if I go crazy. That sounds really exciting to me. So that is my answer there. So interpret that as you will. Bonus question from Darth Prentice. How did you feel about the Love Island Season 7 finale? Was that breakup on your radar? So I barely watched this season of Love Island. My wife watched it, and I was, just kind of next to her playing like Balatro mostly. So I caught it, like I know what's happening, kind of in the way that like if you're like kind of taking a nap while people are in the room and talking, you kind of know what's happening, but you're out of it. But I don't know, it was fine. I think that the person that one of the two people that broke up on that finale, I despised their like inner character. Right, I felt like that they were very manipulative and just, I don't know, I just didn't really like that. So I was like, whatever, maybe the other person's better off now. But that's the most I'll be talking about Love Island on this podcast until probably another mailbag, and then everybody will troll me and just send more Love Island questions. Revere and Runeblood, aka Mr. Viz, aka Gary. Jordy versus Joni. I know this will get dicey. So Joni is my sister's dog that I mentioned earlier. Jordy was my dog who sadly passed away. I think this is pretty easy, actually. It's not going to get dicey at all. It's Jordy 100%. Jordy was my boy. Loved Jordy. He was a beagle. I miss him all the time. He was just so cool and kind of dumb, but like not really. I think it's just more stubborn, as beagles are. So shout out Jordy. You were a king. And World's cosplay in the works. I don't think I'll ever be doing another cosplay. I'm just not good at it. And well, Well, I know the natural answer to me saying I don't like doing things I'm not good at. People will say, "Well, you play Flesh and Blood." Now, that's another bag of hammers. Don't worry about it. And then Gary also asks, "Are you excited for Guardian Mastery? Thoughts on sets like it and classes that would be good for Mastery sets in the future?" I guess I am excited. I'm not a huge Guardian player, although I mean Super Slam might like change me. I played a little bit of Oldham back in the day, and I kind of like how different Goliath looks in Super Slam. And 5 intellect, it's got to be good. It has to be good. It just has to be. And thoughts on sets like it. In theory, I like it a lot, right? As opposed to like a supplemental set, which I don't like a lot. And this all depends, though, on how this one goes. Because if it's lackluster or too much, like too good, I think I will definitely be changing my tune on it. But that is, to be determined. And a class that I think would be good for mastery sets in the future, Brute, obviously. You could do like a mastery set of like odds and ends, right? You got like some weird merchant stuff in there, thief stuff, maybe just like generic pirate stuff. That would be kind of neat. So that would be a thought. But thanks for the questions, Gary. Next comes from Capolo, who surely must have, only asked one question. But no. Polo asks a few, but we'll get to them. How do you pick your guests every week to make sure that the podcast stays fresh? I don't know. I like to, usually I just try to get people that I like talking to, and then also people that I hope that I will like talking to, right? If I get somebody I've never talked to before, I feel like what I see online and what I've heard about the person sounds like they hopefully will make sense with Fresh and Buds and have a good chat. I think for the most part, I've been relatively successful at finding people that I think were perfect for what Fresh and Buds is meant to be. There have been people in the past that maybe I like, it wasn't the right fit, but doesn't mean that there was anything wrong with them or me or this podcast. I think it was just maybe they would have been better on a different podcast, or maybe I would have been better on a different podcast. So that's just kind of how I do it. It's all kind of vibes, and it's hard to schedule. It really is, with like a real life and real job and stuff like that. So that is also a huge like kind of thing that I look at. Like, well, when are they going to be available? I would love to talk to more people from different time zones. I can usually make it work, but that can be difficult, unfortunately, right? I'm like awake at one point and they're asleep, and I don't want to make them wake up too early or stay up too late. So I try to find guests that it would just make sense, and if I have like a day off or something like that, I try to find maybe somebody that normally the time wouldn't work as well. But that's what I try to do. As from Go Again Gaming asks, what is something that you don't really get to speak about on Fresh and Buds and Fresh Juice that you're really passionate about? I don't know. I mean, like, obviously Fresh and Buds is all flesh and blood, and then Fresh Juice, talk about indie video games, and with my cousin Matt, and sometimes we get into some other stuff. I mean, I do like board games. I love game design in general and just like the theory of it. It's very cool. But man, this is actually really tough to answer. I am passionate about like beer. It's my profession. Again, it wasn't for a minute, now it is again. So, but I talk about that all day anyway, so I wouldn't really want to talk like, this is not work. I love food. Like, there's a reason that I bring up food at the end of every podcast, and I could talk about food for a whole podcast. There's no doubt about it. I would love to just like yap about food. And why is some food, in my opinion, better than other food? But also, like, why is it possible that I'm not seeing the truth about a certain kind of food or a certain kind of flavor that perhaps I don't particularly like? And I think that would be pretty cool. And then, as also asked, any other hobbies or favorite pastimes? I love sports too. Like fantasy football is always like big for me every year. I'm a big Green Bay Packers fan, so in American football, I like them. I love cricket. This is a sport that I, kind of picked up like maybe like at this point 10 years ago, and kind of really enjoyed playing it and then also watching it. And then this year I got really into NBA. I just felt like the NBA is kind of heading in a better direction than it had been in the past. So, kind of fun. Yeah, so there's some other hobbies alongside all the other things like board games, trading card games, video games, food, hanging out with my wife, all the cool stuff, hanging out with my friends, my buds. But thanks for the questions, Az. Thanks for writing in. Moonside Man, a.k.a. Adam D., asked, tell me something you've never told anyone before. What's your wife's name? My wife's name, Lady Fresh? I don't think she would mind. Her name's Rhiannon, like the Fleetwood Mac song. And then also, Adam asks, is Smash Palace enough to spark casual fab play? I don't know. I can't really comment on it because I like casual aspects of the game. I like when there's low stakes stuff and, easy barrier to entry or whatever. So I like when it exists. I can never tell what is going to be good because in Magic, which I played for years, if you told me in 2010 when I first started playing Magic that Commander was going to be the biggest format and everybody was going to love it, I would have said, you're lying. It's the worst format and nobody should love it. I still believe that. But at the time, obviously I'm wrong, right? I just am. So I can't tell. I can't tell what's going to be good for the casual play. But thanks for asking. Thanks for writing in. Sigma, a.k.a. the Chaos Brute, asks, if you had a superpower in the real world, what would it be and how would you translate it to an ability of a fab hero? Bonus points if you compare it with a class and maybe a talent. I always liked kind of like, if you're familiar with Aquaman, like Mira had like this water manipulation power. I like that. And I like being able to like control water in a way that makes you like can help with your movement or like in combat or even like making somebody uncomfortable because you're kind of draining the water from them. I always kind of liked that kind of versatility of it. So that's what I would have. And you would have to stick with, if you were going to create an ability, you'd have to stick with one of those aspects. And it would have to be something that involves another token. We'd have to create, I think, another token or a certain kind of card type, right? It would say, like, I think it would have to be illusionist, no doubt. Unfortunately, it'd have to be an illusionist. And it would say, whenever you play a water, this would be a water illusionist. That's just all it would be. It's an elemental illusionist, essence of water. Okay? So whenever you play a water card, right, you may pay an extra resource to create a wave token. And a wave token might attack or something like that, or be kind of versatile in a way that you can use it to soak up some damage or send it, but once you use it to soak up some damage or send it for attack, it goes away and you have to create more wave tokens. So it would be something like that. I think it would be something like that. Capolo back again with a ton of questions. I'm just going to keep reading them and just going to just going to answer them. Are you doing the mailbag episode because James White denied your request to be a guest? James, I hope to get on the podcast one day. I think clearly must be very busy this week with Singapore. What is your goal in Flesh and Blood outside of making content? I would just like to win some things. I've qualified for Nats before twice. I would like to qualify for a Pro Tour. That is like kind of the ultimate goal, and then we'll see what happens from there. I think I can do it. I probably just have to play a good deck probably and kind of learn it. So I think that's just what I need to do. What collectible would you like to see for Flesh and Blood? Would it be an instant buy? I don't know if there's anything outside of regular cards that I am interested in. Like, I don't even have like any of the shirts. I did like the chairs that they had. Those were really neat, like the computer chairs, like office chairs or whatever. But it wasn't an instant buy because I didn't have the money, and yeah, they were expensive. So yeah, that would be, I don't know. I'm not really into that. Like, I'm not into like the figurines or the statues or whatever. Yeah. Maybe like some kind of crazy playmat would be cool. Like so crazy. You're just like, what are they doing here? This is like not even a material I would think to use for a playmat. Maybe like plutonium or something. I would buy that. It'd probably be a little bit expensive. Next question from Cap is, what would you like to see Fresh and Buds look like by episodes 300 in 2 years? That's a good question. I would like a different kind of studio setup. I've already been kind of thinking about it, like how I could do that. There's some questions in the air about whether this room is going to be where I continue to record this podcast. So I don't want to do anything yet. I want to get some kind of solid, stuff in my life and then figure out that. But yeah, I would like just an upgraded kind of studio situation. I think that would be cool. And I would like to be able to get myself technologically savvy enough to kind of get like a mobile studio, not just like the sign that I took to Pro Tour New Jersey, but like a real mobile studio that I can do at events and stuff like that. So that would be cool. It'd be cool to get to episode 300. That's for sure. Nothing's guaranteed, but I'm not stopping yet. What is the secret? This is another one from Capolo. I'm telling you, folks, Capolo is the question bot. Just sends a ton of questions. What is the secret to keep you motivated to record every week, to record this and Fresh Juice podcast? So those who don't know, I have another podcast. So Fresh Juice is the easier one. It is my cousin who I've known for my whole life, and we figured out a perfect time that we can just do like every week, and we just kind of play a game for a week and then talk about it. So that one's pretty easy to do because we're just like, all right, you show up at this time on Monday. All right, I'll show up at this time on Monday too, and we'll just do it. Fresh and Buds is more difficult to organize sometimes, but I just tell myself everybody will hate me if I miss a week. So that's why I don't want people hating me. That's a pretty easy way to motivate yourself. You're just like, well, I like to be liked, I think. But yeah, that's what I do, I guess. It's worked. 205 in a row. Not too bad. Not too shabby. Have I ever experienced the podcaster's block, similar to the writer's block, but not having an idea what the next podcast is about, how to make a podcast reach the 1 hour length? I don't think I've ever had an issue reaching the 1 hour length, because I think if even the guest maybe is a little bit like short-winded, I would say this is not a problem. I can be long-winded, right? Like I kind of enjoy the challenge of like, let's keep this conversation going. Let's see how much we can do. I don't think I never have an issue with the 1 hour length. Podcasters block though. I think that it is a thing that I have experienced, but you just kind of, I don't know, you just strap in. Sometimes I don't know what I'm going to talk about until 10 minutes before I start podcasting. And I'm like, okay. So here is a tip of how I do podcasting with guests and interviews and stuff like that. I have the conversation in my head first. Sounds crazy, and it probably is. But I have that in my head, and you just like, okay, well, that's how I'm going to structure this podcast. And hopefully it goes the way that it went in my head. If not, I'm ready to, kind of improvise and stuff like that. That part's really fun. So you just kind of say, okay, this person's good at this. Let's kind of speak to their strengths. Okay, what else happened in the Flesh and Blood community or the meta or whatever? We talk about that. Boom, boom, boom. Figure it out. I think it's fun. I like it. And then also stealing Darth Prentice's question, favorite book I read this year, bonus point if it blocks for 2. Well, my books don't block for 2. They don't really block for much. But let me get my Goodreads out. I'm on my 9th book of this year, which is good. I'm not like, I try my what do you call it? My New Year's resolution was book a month, so I'm ahead of schedule. Let's see what my books are. I read some good stuff. I read a series called the Tide Child series about these bone ships. It was a nautical fantasy. That was really good. I read this book called The Black Tongue Thief that I really enjoyed by Christopher Buehlman, who also wrote a book called Between Two Fires, which is a great book, but I didn't read it this year. And yeah, I would say that those 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. Yeah, I would say that those are some good ones. I mean, The Day of the Triffids was really interesting too, because it's an older book, but I read it this year, and you can kind of see how, like, even like a movie like 28 Days Later, the beginning is like totally just like, oh, that's from Day of the Triffids. That's just like kind of a classic sci-fi, like post-apocalyptic beginning of a story. Wake up in a hospital. The world's ended. What do we do from here? So that was a good one too. What's a fab hot take that would instantly get you booed by the community? Oh, I don't know. So Jesse Harper says that it's like, I'm going to use somebody else's hot take and boo them. Jesse Harper said in a video not too long ago that he like kind of showed up in, I think he was getting like kind of on the street kind of interviewed, that Spectra is totally fine and everybody should get over it. Now, I don't disagree. However, I think that the mechanic itself is just too messy. It's just kind of hard for newer players to understand and doesn't really hold up to, I think, a lot of the design qualities that Flesh and Blood has, especially in the modern game. So I understand its purpose and why it's not as bad as some people make it out to be. And it certainly feels a lot less bad without original Prism running around. But it is just a little too messy for my liking. But good question. Everybody go boo Jesse Harper, aka the Orc Knight. In High Seas, we got 2 companions. Do you think we'll get more companions in the future? Which other hero do you think would have a companion, and what type of companion? We'll definitely be getting new companions. I mean, you can't just like introduce this and like not give us more. They're really cool. I think they totally work, from a gameplay perspective, and they're super flavorful. The next, I don't know, maybe we're gonna get a brute at some point. We're gonna go to the Savage Land in, I don't know, 5 years at this point. Who knows? we're going to go to the Savage Land. There's going to be a brute that's going to have like some kind of beast companion, right? Usually in these cards, the brute is just beating up the beast, but there's got to be one that is like kind of tamed, kind of like in Wild Ride, like, you know, whatever the Wild Ride brute is riding. I can't think of all the top of my head. So we're going to have a big old, like, kind of beast companion, although it could be like maybe too powerful if it's like really that good. Like the companions we got in High Seas were relatively low power, made sense for what the hero did though. So yeah, I will get it. I think a brute beast companion would be very cool. Sigma comes in and asks, revered or reviled? This is tough. This is a tough one, folks. So I look at these new heroes from Super Slam, and I'm drawn to all of them. I'm not really into the Pleiades. I understand like the kind of rock star thing, and I love music, so like you would think that would be my jam. It's not really. So it's currently 2-1 reviled for me because I love Tough Nut. Tough Nut is so cool and should be revered, to be honest. But the reviled heroes are both so cool as well. KO, a new KO, so neat. Just how is KO going to work without like the +1 stuff? I'm excited to see. And then Lyeth is just, I mean, clearly has a downside, but probably maybe not have a downside. It's got 5 intellect. Just really cool. And just like, he's just like, he's, you know, you look at the art, you're like, I don't like this guy, but like, it's exactly how you're supposed to be feeling when you look at that hero. So they are certainly reviled. So I think, yeah, 2-1 reviled is what I am. So I guess I get it. I like a heel. I understand. I'm more of an underdog guy. Like in like any kind of like competition story, I'm an underdog guy, and typically they're more revered. So maybe I am more revered, but we'll see what Tough Nut does. I have a feeling I'm going to like Tough Nut. We will see. Dead Summer, our good friend Kale, comes in with our last question. What's your all-time favorite game, movie, TV, book series? That's all slashes, by the way. It's not a game, movie, TV, book series. And what about it makes it so appealing to you? I'll answer all of these. My favorite game, this is tough. Like, based on hours, it's got to be Balatro. But I'm gonna put the Jokers to the side. It's Ocarina of Time, no doubt. I love that game. I've played it on like every console that it's been on, you know, and I will continue to play it. It's just so many fond memories. I love the fantasy aspect, of course, but I think what makes Ocarina of Time such like a killer experience and why it's so revered, I would say, is because you get to experience 2 games. You get to be young Link, go through, get the 3 stones in these kind of like not so menacing dungeons, which like they can be a little bit menacing, but like they are more attainable for you as like a kid character. You go through and you kind of like explore what it means to do these dungeons in the game. And then you become the adult Link. And then you have to go, you're like, oh, is it going to be like 3 more dungeons? No, there's like 7 more. So you got to go do 7 more dungeons. And they're all so unique and challenging in different ways. And they take you across like the whole map in a way that like you didn't even grasp as the kid Link, right? Like it truly felt like you grew up, right? And I just love why, like that experience, and that's why it's so important to me. My favorite movie is probably, Lord of the Rings trilogy is certainly my favorite movies, right? I rewatch them all the time, and it's you know, I'm into fantasy. I like Lord of the Rings. I like that it is, and there's a reason I like Lord of the Rings more than any other fantasy series ever. It approaches like being a good person and like what it means, and like to like hobbits are just the perfect like characters, like to really humanize things and just say, you know what, we all want to pretend we're Aragorn, we all want to pretend we're Legolas, we all want to pretend we're Gandalf, but deep down we're just hobbits. And that would be disappointing for people if hobbits weren't just so like cool. Like they're not like not cool, but like you're just, yes, like I want to stay home and eat cheese and drink tea and then go to the pub and have a few pints and just explore the beautiful outdoors and all this wonderful stuff. It doesn't have to be all craziness. And like it also explores the idea of, going on these quests and journeys and wars is like, it takes its toll on you, and it can have great things in it, but in the end, kind of going back to your roots and like enjoying the comforts of being a normal person is not so bad. And it really, I think the contrast of like how terrible things can get, really brings out the greatness in the Shire. But if it's not the Lord of the Rings movies, it's The Thing. 1982, John Carpenter's The Thing. Love that movie. It is, I rewatch that at least once a year, and it just is like the perfect sci-fi horror movie. It has great memorable characters. It plays into the kind of paranoia of like even just kind of getting this cabin fever out in this Antarctic science base. Callback. Maybe that's why I want to go there, to fight off an alien. But yeah, no, that would be the movie. TV is a little tough for me. I don't know. I can't really answer TV because like TV series are not really my favorite kind of storytelling, because no matter how good a TV series is, it ends up faltering. Now, that being said, I do have an answer for it. It is season 1 and season 3 of True Detective. Season 2 is not that good, and the fourth was just okay. But I truly, season 1 for sure, and season 3 as well, I really enjoyed. But just like great detective story, and it's all confined in one season. I think that's why I like it. So it's like you don't have to worry about, well, they eventually lost the way of the plot after that. And I think that's happens in a lot of TV shows, whether they like it or not. And then favorite book series is a book series by Chris Holm, called The Collector Series. The first book's called Dead Harvest. It is basically like, what if you sold your soul to the devil, and then when you sell your soul to the devil and you finally get collected, you become a collector, and now it's your job to go out, and you're like a dead person. Your job to go out and collect the souls of the people that sold their souls. And the way you do that is you kind of you can take over other people's bodies, but you can also take over dead bodies to kind of use them, like freshly dead bodies usually. And the main thing in the first book, the main conflict is, well, goes to collect an evil soul, but maybe the soul was not as evil. So he's like, why did I get sent to collect this? It's like, it just built a really cool world, and it had this pulpy noir kind of feel to it. I've reread those books multiple times, so really enjoy. If anybody wants to like get into it, I would just read Dead Harvest by Chris Holm. And if you like that, you can read the other two, which I think is The Wrong Goodbye And then I'm blanking on the third one's name, but which I know it doesn't sound like my favorite book series, but it is. I just always read it as the collector series. So, but yeah, that's it. That is all the questions. Thank you all for sending the mail in. Really appreciate it here at Fresh and Buds. And make sure you comment below how right my Pro Tour predictions were. And if you are interested in stuff like this, let me know. And then also hop into the Buds Discord. It's in the show notes below. And it is a great way to submit listener questions for the guests and myself on episodes like this. So, yeah, thanks, Tommy, for coming on the show. Wait, it's hard to just talk to yourself, huh? But look at that. We're at 1:10. How about that? See, not so hard to to yap for me. But please, if you're watching on YouTube, give us the old like, comment, subscribe. On Spotify, they have a rating system as well. There's comments there as well, too. I try to check them whenever they come in. I don't know how the notifications are a little wonky on it for me, but please do that. The Buds Discord, go to @freshbudspod, social.bsky for the blue sky, and then check out Fresh Juice, my other podcast I do with my cousin. And finally, maybe some food to talk about the end of the show. And I made something really delicious tonight. We had chicken thighs with the skin and the bones, so I seared the skin side, got it all crispy, boom, 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 browned it up, moved it over, got some parboiled rice and like some veggies, and like started doing something in the pan, same pan, and then hit it with the parboiled rice and instead of water, use chicken stock, and then threw those chicken thighs back in, and then just let that cook and get the rice all cooked, and then the chicken thighs finished, and then it was just like this nice little chicken and rice dish. Just delicious. So if you want the recipe, I probably already forgot. It was all improv, but it tasted good. But what's that? Wait, we're gonna folks, we're getting Charmer on the show. That's a joke. Everybody stay fresh.